previously on board.
Yeah, very happy to see the very, very summery and tropical look of Gary Mabbutt this afternoon. How are you doing, Gary?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's a beautiful day here in England, so I'm making the most of it.
Guys are certainly having an Indian summer at the moment. Yesterday we were Skyping somebody else in London. Beautiful blue skies, sunshine, nice warm weather. It's the sort of the last run before the winter comes in, eh?
Yes, most definitely. It's been a very wet year so far, mostly. But having said that, I spent the last 5 weeks in South Africa. So there you go, enjoying the sun at the Kruger Park.
There we go.
Thanks for popping in, Gary.
Hey, Gary, I was in the Kruger Park. He's looking at wild animals and stuff on holiday, not working.
Gary loves the Kruger.
There we go.
Hey, it was also a bit of work because in working along with a number of other companies as far as trying to stop the rhino poaching. So I'm sure that, as you know, a lot of big companies are involved. I think SAP are involved with Mabbutt, and I've been doing some work with Investec. So yes, so the more companies we can get involved in it, the more chance we've got of doing something positive.
All right, I'm going to just kill our camera, Gary. Don't panic, you're still there. Just so we can get all of the possible bandwidth from your Skype today. All right, well, I'm glad that you enjoyed all your time here in South Africa. We've just heard today, don't know how true this is, Usain Bolt is going to be running out for Man United against Real Madrid.
Well, I certainly wouldn't like to mark him anyway.
Yeah, I don't want him to get away from you. If he gets past you, then you're done and dusted. You may as well just stand and watch the rest.
Pace is never one of my strengths.
Yeah, is there any truth in that? I mean, has there been anything in the media there? And because apparently it's a friendly against Real Madrid. I don't know why they'd be having a friendly against a team like Real Madrid now.
No, I can't imagine that any team want to play a friendly at the moment. As you know, the Premiership's just started and it's in full swing now. It's International Week at the moment, so obviously there's a rest from the games this weekend. But no, it's all very intense and everyone looking towards getting points in the Premiership. So I'm sure it would be a bit of a... I'm sure for Mr. Ferguson, he would not like the idea of playing a friendly. But Usain Bolt was at the United game last week, and I'm sure there's a bit of pressure being put on somewhere for him to be involved in some kind of way.
Yeah, should go to Liverpool. I'm sure they'd give him a start and a contract for at least 3-4 years.
he get a start every week there.
Yeah.
Go away,
You're saying go and start at Rangers, play third division football, and then go to Liverpool and then work your way up to the big teams. All right. So early days yet. 3-4 games down in the English Premier League, and the usual suspects are basically there or thereabouts. As always happens, it's always nice to see this time of the season because, and it's happened before with teams like Norwich to suddenly come out of the blocks with a flyer. 3 games, they got 9 points, and we've seen Sunderland do it, and other of the sort of so-called minnows. And I see Swansea got off to a good start this season, and a couple of other teams. So you always see some of the unusual suspects up amongst the Man Uniteds, Man Cities, and the like at this time of the season. But I mean that's crucial for them because you get a start like that when it comes down to relegation time later on. That start could be the difference between surviving and going down.
That's absolutely correct. I think every team wants to get a good start in the Premiership, but for those teams who are really just fighting for their lives and for survival, to have a great start is vitally important. As you say, Swansea have had a magnificent start, 2 victories and a draw. A bit disappointing last weekend with a draw at home to Sunderland, but having said that, currently they're in second place in the Premiership behind Chelsea. West Brom are in third place. So yes, it's but the funny thing about the Premiership team, people are talking to me at the moment because Tottenham have had a slightly below par start to the season with only 2 points so far. But whenever we started the season, until the first 5 games have been played, we never even looked at the tables because it can be very false. You can have an easy start to the season, a difficult start to the season. It's only after the first sort of 5 games generally things start to piece themselves together. So hopefully we've got at Tottenham, we've got 2 more games to get some points on the table before taking a look at the log.
Yeah, and I mean this time of the season it's so easy to go from bottom 3 up, suddenly you're in the top 8, and then you're jockeying for that position where things start to settle down. But again, you would think sides like Tottenham and obviously also Arsenal, I think again when you look at previous years and where they've finished, and then looked at the sides that they've lost against or dropped points against. Now these are sides that an Arsenal side that had a Van Persie, and even going back to when Thierry Henry was around, they'd be kicking themselves season after season for not picking up the points they should in those games. You've spoken about Stoke and and teams like West Brom. And they've kind of started like that again. Now, obviously, they looked a lot better against Liverpool with Podolski finally finding the net. But when you look later on in the season again, and they're kind of jockeying for maybe European places versus trying to jockey for the Championship, or the European, the English Premier League, they're going to look at results like their first two games and go, we should have got points out of those games or more points.
Yes, but it's a long season. There are always those games where you call them the if-only games. If only we'd have got 3 points there. At the end of every season, every single team will have a number of those games. But I mean, Arsenal had a poor start by their standards. They hadn't scored in their first two games, and then finally, the two new signings, Podolski, Gazzola, whatever, they both scored at Liverpool and got a great result at Anfield. Yeah. So they've kick-started their season. Tottenham, unfortunately, the first two games we were away at Newcastle. In the first game, we actually played quite well and should have got something from that game. Second game, home to West Bromwich Albion. Again, we played better than West Brom, should have got the 3 points. Gave away a goal in the final seconds of the match. And against Norwich, a team really you would expect us to beat at White Hart Lane. But again, in the last 5 minutes, we conceded. So yes, the new manager's come in. It takes a while for things to settle down. We've got a lot of new players as part of the squad. We've lost Luka Modric. We've lost Rafael van der Vaart. So yeah, I mean things are starting to come together. But we've got two games coming up: Reading and QPR. So there are games which we will be desperate to get the full 6 points from. As you mentioned before, if we get those 6 points, we could be in sixth place in the table.
Back on track. How's QPR? Completely. It's almost like they've gone to the fringes of all the big sides and decided to harvest all of those players. There's a bit of money around there as well. I see Asia are sponsoring them as well. So they're trying to do things with QPR by picking up sort of players secondary to requirements at places like Man United, Chelsea, etc., etc. Do you think that Mark Hughes will be able to gel aside with those players?
Well, I think Mark is a very astute manager, and he's got a lot of good contacts in the game. I'm sure that he knows a lot of people where he can perhaps pick up players on loan, pick up players from clubs that, as you mentioned, aren't quite going to be regular first teamers at those clubs. And I've got a lot of time for Mark, and I know for sure that this season he's got to make his mark. But there's a number of sides in the Premiership that it'll be interesting this season. West Ham United, they came up. They've had 2 victories already. They're doing very well. And of course, at the other end, Southampton, who are also newly promoted, haven't got a point yet. So there's already, even after the first 3 games of the season, there's a lot of interest being created. But as I said before, really until after the first sort of 5-6 games, there's no point in looking at the table and getting too despondent, no matter who you support.
There seems to be a distinct, I don't know if it's kind of an agreement or an understanding, and maybe you'll know more about this, between Sir Alex and some of his former favourites. Mark Hughes, I remember Steve Bruce as well. You always kind of used to see wherever the former Man United players were suddenly managing. And Brian Robson, I think, had this as well to an extent when he was managing in the Premier League. That suddenly, it's almost like there's an understanding that Sir Alex might let a few players go to those clubs where he's got some of his former players managing now. Do you know if there's anything to that?
Well, I mean, again, like a lot of things, it's not what you know, but who you know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that people that have worked with Sir Alex over the years and have done well for him, worked well with him, I'm sure that if the opportunity arises to perhaps try and get some players out on loan to those clubs, then I'm sure he's more than happy to look at it. So I'm sure he'd be more happier to look at lending players to ex-players' clubs than he would to teams like Tottenham and Arsenal.
Absolutely, you would never see him doing that for Arsene Wenger or Villas-Boas. I don't know if any other Arsenal supporters did, but I must admit I did just go and check the web to see if George Graham hadn't come back to Arsenal after those first 2 games.
Well, no, I mean, I have to say that there's been a lot of talk last season about the demise of Arsenal and the demise of Arsene Wenger. You look at his record, you can never count Arsenal out. If you look at it, any team that in 1 year has lost world-class players like Nasri, Fabregas and now Van Persie, those teams would struggle, and yet still he continues to qualify for the Champions League every single year.
Yeah.
So, as I said, Arsenal are probably Tottenham's biggest rivals, but I've got a lot of time for Arsene Wenger.
Final one, Knox.
Michael Owen signing for Stoke City. Interesting signing that. Would you have rather seen him at Liverpool, back at Liverpool, or do you think what Brandon Rodgers is doing at Liverpool would not fit Michael Owen's style of play?
Well, Brendan's trying to, I think, give youth a chance at Liverpool. It's a matter of how long that can continue. They loaned out Andy Carroll to West Ham for the whole season, and of course weren't able to replace him before the transfer window closed. So they've only got really 2 strikers at Liverpool. They're struggling a bit at the moment. I think Brendan Rodgers is going to be under a bit of pressure if they don't pick up some results soon. So, Michael, if I'd have been Rodgers, I may well have taken Michael Owen back to Liverpool. Purely for the fact that he's still a goal scorer. He's always a fit lad. He's always going to get goals for you. So I was a bit surprised he didn't go back there, because even after the first few games, you can see that Liverpool need more strikers in the squad, and they need more firepower. And Michael may have provided that. But again, I think it's a good signing for Tony Pulis at Stoke. Tony's a very good friend of mine, and I think he's put together over the last few years a decent squad of players. Got a great attitude. They give 100% every single game, and whenever you play them, it's always a very tough game, and that's why they've survived and done well in the Premiership.
Yeah. All right. This is always a good time to maybe put your stall out. I don't know if you don't want to, you don't have to, Gary, because I know you are friends with a lot of these guys. But this is where you start looking ahead, going, okay, after the start, who's the manager that's first to get the sack this season? I'm kind of looking at one of Rodgers or Villas-Boas.
Cool.
Arsene Wenger.
Well, I hope it's not Villas-Boas from my perspective. So I'll leave you making the option on the other name.
Are you happy with him there at Spurs?
As far as, I'd much rather go for players I think have made a mark already this season. I think Eden Hazard at Chelsea, I think he's been outstanding. He reminds me a bit of Ronaldo at times. He's got that bit of cheek about him. He's got such quality. And of course, Podolski's finally come to the race with a goal, first goal for Arsenal. But also, I think at Tottenham, we look at, I think, Dembele, player we signed from Fulham. I think he could also make his mark this year. But just say replacing people like Modric and Van der Vaart is going to be tough. But I think there's a lot of excitement to come over this Premiership season. As I said before, for all fans of any club in the Premiership, don't look at the table for at least another 2 or 3 weeks.
There we go. When do Arsenal play Spurs, by the way?
Crikey, not until the end of the year.
Oh, is it? Okay, so all those big crucial, like regular mouth-watering clashes between the big rivals, Spurs, Arsenal, Man U, and that we're looking forward to from November onwards.
Your big one is in October.
Yeah, October. We've got Man United away at the end of this month, and we've got Chelsea at home next month. So 2 big games for Tottenham. But as I say, the most important game the club is always the next match. We got Reading away, so we need 3 points there.
All right, Gary, always nice to chat to you. Enjoy what's left of the summer there, and look after yourself, and we'll chat to you again sometime in the future. Thanks for joining us today.
Lovely, thanks very much.
Cheers, Gary. There we go. Gary Mabbutt joining us with, as usual, his insights into what he feels on the English Premier League, and still early days, as he said. So give it a few more games, and then everything will start to settle in.
2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mondays to Fridays live on balls.co.za. Balls.co.za.